Every American should hopefully know each unit of our currency. In 2025, we have the penny, nickel, dime, quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins, and the dollar, $2, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 bills. But did you know that there are 12 different dollar bills that have been discontinued and 9 different coins that have been too? In today's video, I'm going to explain all 21 obsolete denominations of American currency. We won't be looking at different iterations of bills and coins that exist today, for example how President Grover Cleveland was on the $20 bill before Andrew Jackson was, but if you'd be interested in a follow-up video on that topic, let me know with a like and comment. So there are two types of bills that have been discontinued in the United States. The first type is the more well-known one, the high denomination bills. These are any bills that were greater than $100 in denomination. Most of these bills were barely used by the public whatsoever and were instead used for internal bank and government transactions. So if you time traveled to 1920 and tried to rob a rich guy on the street, chances are he wouldn't be carrying any of these bills unless he was in the banking industry. In 1969, all these bills were ordered to be sent to the federal government by the banks for their destruction, so it's very uncommon to come across any of these today. The $500 bill was printed from 1861 to 1945 and featured 25th President William McKinley in its final version. The $1,000 bill was printed from 1861 to 1934 and featured 22nd and 24th President Grover Cleveland in its final version. The $5,000 bill was printed from 1861 to 1945 and featured 4th President James Monroe in its final version. The $10,000 bill was printed from 1878 to 1934 and featured Chief Justice Salmon P. Chase in its final version. The $100,000 bill was extremely rare, with only 42,000 ever printed, and their possession by the public was illegal. They were exclusively used for transactions between the government and the 12 Federal Reserve banks, and only 12 are still known to exist today. Finally, the $2,000 bill is a strange case. I was able to find this image of it, but the only source is a Wikipedia article citing a book that I don't have access to, and there's barely anything else referencing it whatsoever on the internet. According to the Wikipedia article, it was printed for an extremely brief time in Philadelphia in 1840, but again, I can't find a definitive source on this, so please leave a comment if you have any additional information and I'll pin it. The second type of discontinued bill is fractional denominations. To make a long story short, the economy was unstable during and after the Civil War, and the US government was facing their biggest coin shortage in history up to that point. As a response, they began printing fractional bills from 1862 to 1876. These were the 3-cent note featuring 1st President George Washington, the 5-cent note featuring 3rd President Thomas Jefferson, the 10-cent note featuring the Secretary of the Treasury William Meredith, the 15-cent note featuring Columbia, who's a female personification of the United States kind of like Uncle Sam, the 25-cent note featuring Secretary of the Treasury Robert Walker, and finally the 50-cent note featuring Secretary of the Treasury William Crawford. These bills are also uncommon to come across in the modern day because of how briefly they were produced, and because they of course held significantly less value than the high denomination bills. The half-cent coin was the smallest denomination of US currency to ever exist. It was minted from 1793 to 1857, and all 5 versions of it featured the personification Lady Liberty in some form. No, not the Statue of Liberty, that was built decades after the coin stopped being minted. The 2-cent coin was also a product of the struggling economy during the Civil War, being minted from 1864 to 1873 and featuring a shield and wheat wreath. There were 2 different iterations of the 3-cent coin. The first was called the Trime, or 3-cent silver, and was of course minted in silver. It was produced from 1851 to 1873. The second iteration was referred to as the 3-cent nickel, and produced from 1865 to 1889. The 3-cent nickel was made with copper and nickel as opposed to silver. From 1875 to 1878, there was briefly a 20-cent coin that featured Lady Liberty and a bald eagle that was quickly discontinued because of its confusion with the quarter, which of course is still used today. The quarter eagle is not actually a 25-cent coin, but instead it was a coin worth $2.50. In the same family was the half eagle worth $5, the eagle worth $10, and the double eagle worth $20. All 4 of these coins featured either Lady Liberty or a Native American on the front, and of course an eagle on the back. These were all minted using 90% gold and 10% copper, and were meant to be worth approximately their actual value in their weight of gold. All of these coins were introduced in 1795 with the exception of the double eagle, which came along in 1849, and they were all discontinued between 1929 and 1933 because of the removal of the gold standard by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. There was also a $3 gold coin that existed from 1854 to 1889 with Lady Liberty on it, but it was used less often than the eagle coins and is even rarer among coin collectors to this day. So there's a quick overview of the currency denominations in the United States that aren't used anymore. Do you think any of these should be brought back? Like I said in the intro to this video, there's plenty more history behind our currency when you start taking a look at the different iterations behind each coin and bill. So let me know if you want to see a video about that. Thanks for watching. This is Bay State History signing off.